Hi, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to say the phrase, fuck you, Patrick, in your most believable tone.
My parents will not stop. Hang on. Okay. Fuck you, Patrick.
I find your lack of power disturbing.
My name is Darth.
Whiskey.
That's the stupidest name I've ever heard.
Welcome back, dum-dum.
The dojo is real?
Hello there. Welcome to Dum Dum Dojo. I'm your host, Darth Whiskey, and thank you again for joining me. My guest this episode is my good friend, Mr. Andrew Drizz Valdez. Drizz and I have been friends for a long time, and he is one of the most vibrant and animated personalities of anybody that I know. In addition to being in charge of his own advertising and marketing firm, Drizz is also an aspiring stand-up comedian, and we've had many late-night conversations about stand-up comedy, the role of comedy, the nature of existence and reality and religion and what we're doing here and where we're going. And this conversation, like many of our conversations in the past, was really fun, and I am eternally grateful for his friendship. As always, you can come say what's up to your boy on Instagram at Darth Whiskey. I encourage you to hit the like and subscribe buttons to my left. Shapusht. There they are. What else? What am I missing? Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Love each other. Go get your shots, please. You're not going to turn into a mutant. Listen, I got my shots. If I was going to turn into a mutant, I'd like to think that I'd be a mutant by now. And when I think about like what kind of mutant ability that I would like to have for myself, I don't trust myself like on an ethical level with the abilities of like a Charles Xavier or an Emma Frost or like a Jean Grey, or telepathy, right? Like mind reading, influencing people's thoughts, etc., etc. There's a cat named Doug Ramsey. His code name is Cypher, and his mutant abilities, he can speak any language. For some reason, that gets my dick really hard. I think that would be super cool. All right, I love you. Welcome to the dojo. I remember I was on the road once, and we were in a part of the country. We were in a certain part of the country, and I was tired, and just one thing after another. And I see this dude, and he's like this biker dude. He's got like a vest. He's got like his full. Think of like a tough motorcycle rock and roll biker dude. And I'm looking at him. He may or may not have had a Confederate flag on at the time, which is problematic. But I remember looking at this gentleman, thinking to myself, like, me and this guy got nothing in common. Me and this dude we would have nothing to talk about. And I think I was waiting for like the band or like the tour manager to like settle up. And I was sitting at the bar next to him talking, and we started talking. We ended up having like a 28-minute conversation about different barbecue styles, regional barbecue styles of like, this is Memphis, this is Kansas City, this is Texas barbecue. Here's why Memphis is better than Texas. Here's why I like Texas more than Memphis. I'm not much of a mustard-based sauce guy, et cetera, et cetera. And then I remember catching myself in the middle of the conversation like, all right, I know we're talking about something as trivial as smoked meats, but if I'd been stubborn and closed-minded in my head of like, fuck this, I'm like, just if I'd stuck to the prejudice and the prejudgment that I had made of this guy, I wouldn't have gotten to have a great conversation with this dude. And then it ended up, so we started talking about barbecue and for like a half an hour, and then like that got twisted somehow into like this charity show that he's in charge of running every year. And I'm like, dog, this like these are the adventures, the conversations, the connections with people. You're an amazing human. Yeah, and I'm an asshole for thinking otherwise, right? Yeah. So I'm with you, dude.
Yeah, it's funny, like just as human beings, we have this like propensity to like, we got to find something in common within the first 5 minutes. And if we don't, then I don't like that person, or that person's not for me. But the fact of the matter is we're all more similar than we'd like to believe. And like, you could pretty much talk to anyone about anything. At least I'm able to, because I like a lot of different things, but I also like things that I'm not directly involved in my day to day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if someone is really like, to take your barbecue example, like I love barbecue, but only to like a certain, like, I don't know the difference between Memphis and Texas, but like, if I can talk to someone about that, like then I'm learning from the conversation. Yeah. And then that's just like a way more fun conversation to have versus like, oh, let me just flex my knowledge on this subject. And then you flex your knowledge on this subject. And then we're in this weird fucking ping pong match with each other, trying to just spike the conversation.
Life has been so much more enjoyable when I've approached it from an angle of, I don't know, like, teach me about this. I'm a novice about this thing. Like, I have things to learn about this thing. As opposed to, like, in my younger days when I would walk around with my nose in the air thinking I knew I was hot shit, you know what I mean? Like, I got the world figured out, this and that. And you learn very quickly that you don't. And so here's another fun thing about Shreddables and whiskey. Entirely forgot where that story started, so I'm just going to shut the fuck up. And, yes.
Set an alarm for 4:30 p.m. That's when I got to jerk off.
Yes, of course. Oh, hey, I saw a Reddit headline: men who ejaculate 21 times a month reduce their risk for prostate cancer by a third. 21 in a month. I can knock out 21 in like just Monday through Friday, just like a regular 40-hour work week. I could probably knock out 21 Ejacs. And then I dove deeper into the comments, and there was apparently some some back and forth, some speculation, because apparently if you jerk off too much, that can also lead to prostate cancer. So
dang, it's like the fine line of how much do I jerk off.
Is there a Goldilocks zone for manual stimulation? For the good people watching at home, tell us who you are and our relationship.
I'm Andrew Valdez.
Yes, Andrew Drizz Valdez himself.
Yeah, Drizz, not to be confused with Jizz or Drizzy, as in Drizzy Drake. Do you remember on Degrassi? He was Jimmy, and he was.
I never watched this show, but this was like a teen soap opera, right? Yeah. And he gets shot.
Yeah, he gets shot.
Is it a gang violence thing, or is that me being racist and assuming just because he's black?
It is weird that the black guy gets shot.
You couldn't have made one of the other children the victim? I'm trying to think, when was the first time we met? Would it have been at like a family house party? Yeah, I
think like a Riverside party, but I think it was like in the backyard, and they had like this, what is it called? I want to say Pagoda, but it's not a pagoda. It's like the Western version of that. But they have like, it's really echoey.
Gazebo?
Gazebo. Dude.
You know what these are? They're gazebos! They're bullshit!
So not a pagoda at all.
Kind of. I mean, you know what? Okay, here's what's funny. This is a sidetrack, but on the subject of pagoda versus gazebo, right? Both of which are just really fun words to say.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Like I don't know if you do this or not. Like I think this is a weird thing that is exclusive to me, but I really enjoy getting into a headspace where I'll say a word over and over until it no longer makes sense, where it sounds like gibberish. Gazebo, 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 gazebo. It's silly. Between gazebos and pagodas, one thing that fascinates me is how cultures, again, on entirely different parts of the Earth's crust, all came up with similar concepts, right? Like, so in this situation, an outdoor structure, right, that is shelter from the elements, and perhaps used for some kind of ceremonial gathering or observance, right? And then I was thinking to myself, like, somebody go ahead and explain to me, right? Like, if the fucking Skrulls land on Earth tomorrow and they're like, all right, cool, we need you guys to explain the difference between a burrito and a spring roll. They feel kind of like structurally extremely similar, right? You put the meat and the vegetables in the middle, you wrap it in the doughy stuff, you eat it with one hand. It looks very phallic.
It's convenient as hell too. And that's like the underlying thing about both those things.
Yes,
like,
portability.
Yeah, that's the main thing. What were the aliens' names?
The Skrulls. Now, see, the Skrulls are one of the major alien races in the Marvel Comics universe, but they're shapeshifters, right? So they can touch you and steal your DNA, and then they can look like you. Yes.
Facts. Well, if the Skrulls came here,
yes,
that would be like my number one answer. It's like, we're lazy. We like things in our hand, then we could take them on the go and like do other stupid shit.
I need to eat this, but I don't want to stay here while I'm doing it.
Yeah. I gotta go fucking jerk off. I need this hand to jerk off and this hand to eat a burrito.
I think about like evolutionarily, like there's no way that I would have made it past like the caveman stage. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like if I had to kill my own antelope for ribeye, there's no chance.
Yeah. Well, you you don't befriend the antelope, raise it, and then kill it. You would go hunt the antelope.
That's what I'm saying. That's even worse. Like I'm supposed to.
Oh,
like,
a perfect stranger.
Or I remember I was flying home from Thailand and watching some kind of like caveman movie. It was like a caveman movie that was like 70% CGI, and it was about like the first dog that got domesticated by like the first caveman kid. Cave people are all sitting around a campfire, and then they like it's like rustling. They hear something in the distance. It's like guess it's nothing, and they go back to it, and then like the shot is like a 2-shot of like the protagonist kid and his homie that looks like the singer from Silverchair. And for the rock fans, it's either the singer from Silverchair. For the football fans, I think his name is Trevor something. I think he's this guy for the quarterback.
Trevor Lawrence.
That fucking yes.
Yeah, long hair.
And these are hair curtains from the 90s. Sean Hunter. I'm just gonna pause here, looking at the corner of my desk until I remember what I was talking about. We're talking about.
The caveman?
Oh, it's 2-shot. Fucking. Okay, wait, so.
Fast forward through that. It's just leave it on me, but then like fast forward through me figuring it out. That's me talking to myself. Yeah, I know you too.
So it's the 2 fucking caveman kids, and they're just sitting around, and then just. And Chompers, the saber-toothed tiger, just comes out of like left field and grabs the dude, and takes him off into the night, and they just hear screaming, and it's like, and there goes Trevor. It's like, fuck, that would be wild, dude. I couldn't imagine that kind of an existence where you're 70% on edge at all times because there's danger afoot.
Yeah. That's kind of like how our culture is now, though. You know, like we think that there's danger around us all the time.
Right. Yeah.
But really, like
our hardware hasn't updated to the software of 2021. The main way that we know each other is through a mutual friend, a dear friend of mine named Jordan, who's your cousin. I asked her this when she moved to New York. Like, do you not get sketched out about like walking the streets and there being danger potentially in alleyways and stuff? And she's like, it's part of the city. I'm like, could never imagine.
I mean, I would agree with her, but I also think that she's wrong about herself, if that makes sense. Like,
I remember. Okay, wait a minute. So I remember we were in Cuba. We took a friend's vacation to Cuba, and one of the evenings that we were there, we were intention to go to this like art museum / nightclub. We had like 2 days left in the country. We'd been meaning to do this the whole trip. We just never got around to it. This is the night we're finally gonna go to this club. Yeah. And we get there and it's closed. And then there's these cab drivers outside that are like, hey, yeah, this is closed. They're doing renovations. We'll drive you to another party where they got like a whole thing going on. We know the promoter, blah, 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 blah. And we're like, all right, let's do it.
First off, what kind of cabbie? Like this should have been our first.
Clue number one that this wasn't going to end well.
Also, definitely open, as we later found out.
We meet the cabbies. They suggest to us a different place. Explain the currency situation.
Yeah, so you got dollars created for Americans that are called it's kook or coop. So those are the two.
Right. So
Cuban.
CUC versus CUP. One of them is like significantly less value than the other, like 20 times less. And that's the one that the Cuban.
That's their money.
Yeah, that's the Cuban citizens used for stuff. The bills they're all orange and green and stuff. So I don't know. 20 says 20.
So we drive down to the spot that the club that was so popping, and it was popping. We got there and they were like, it was popping. Like they weren't fucking around about that part. But the issue came when we paid our cab driver and he was fine, if I recall. And then I don't remember which car you were in.
I was in the car with Jordan. So what happened was we got to the spot and they're like, all right, it'll be $50, right? And I was like, all right, cool, here. So I gave him a 50. And so we exit the vehicle. And then as we are exiting the vehicle, cabbie comes up and says, no, dude, you gave me the wrong kind of 50. You gave me the national 50, which is again like 20 times less. So Jordan, your lovely, wonderful cousin, says, oh, never mind. Here, I got it. My bad. You fucked up, pal. Here's another 50, right? So I think that first cab left, and then the rest of our group was behind us in the second cab.
Arguing.
Because their cab was doing the exact same shit.
Exact same thing, yeah. Yeah, we told him to go fuck himself. It was not a good look to do it in a foreign country, especially you don't know where you don't know what the fuck
This
you're
was
doing.
my fear, was like so your other cousin Taylor, I call her the agent, right? Because I think one day she's gonna end up working for the FBI, the CIA, or something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
She knows Spanish. She knows how to curse in Spanish. And she was going in on the cab driver. Because once it was clear that, like, all right, half of us just got scammed and they're clearly trying to do it again, we ain't going to let it happen.
No facts. We like literally mobbed around that car.
Caused a big problem. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, hey, guys, I've seen movies. We are Americans. We can't get into trouble in this country, please. Let's just give them the $50. And then also, like, we don't speak the language. There's locals there. Like, what if, I don't know. My brain was going to all sorts of creative places. But then we got to the club, which was indeed popping. Also, I don't think there was a club, a specific club. Like, these dudes just took us in a cab, dropped us off at a spot, said that'll be $50 twice. And then we found a club to go into, some kind of underground, very sweaty, very
it's cool.
Dimly lit. It was awesome. It was what I pictured. It was what I was hunting for when I was like, I want to go to Cuba.
Dimly lit and like very dangerous things happening.
Oh yeah.
Like, in Cuba, obviously, no restrictions on like alcohol consumption. You're getting your shit in a plastic cup. They're filling that shit up, and then you just
no
keep
gloves,
going.
no hand sanitizer,
nothing, none of that. And this was right before COVID. Like,
oh my god,
like 3 months before they shut down.
I didn't even think about that. That was the beginning. That was how we started 2020. What a great start to a dog shit year.
Do you remember that they had like these knife performers?
I do. These shirtless fucking Francis Ngannou looking motherfuckers.
Yeah.
That were just like these, like, cause here's a ignorant American thing. Also, I've decided at some point there's gonna be a new song. It's the I'm an Ignorant American song. There were Cuban black people, right? So like that look like what we would consider traditional black people here, but speak full Spanish. And this dude is shirtless with like a 19 pack and just tossing machetes in the air, doing all sorts of sexy, sweaty shit. And then we got like the 3 or 4 old Cuban musicians in the corner, just.
And you're like, literally, these guys are gonna fucking end their lives right now. We might see someone die. Yeah, and we're watching this shit, and I like turn over, and I'm like, that's Kacey Musgraves. Who's the whitest American, the most whitewashed American you could think of, and what the fuck is she doing in here?
Dude, that's right.
And I tapped my friend Matt, and he's a big Kacey Musgraves fan. Like,
that's right.
Like not just a big fan of her music, but also has dreams about her regularly. And like, this is something that Agent Tay just has to like be cool with. So for him, this was like a huge moment. So like, I was like, oh, what is this guy gonna do? Like, I mean, this is a big moment for him. He's meeting like this person that he's only seen in his dreams. And
so fill me in and pardon my ignorance. She's like a country pop star, right?
Yeah. I would say, country pop is probably a good way to define her. This is a big moment for my guy here. Like, how is he going to approach the situation? And this dude just decides to go with, not the best pickup line. Kacey! Hey, Kacey!
I think it's time for a subject change. So one of the ways you and I relate to each other is the art form. You're a big fan and a practitioner of stand-up comedy.
So my love of stand-up started like obviously watching, similar to like your love of stand-up.
Mm-hmm. Who are some? Do you remember some of your first couple of people where you're like, this is a special? Where it's like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah, Patrice O'Neal.
Oof, he does a bit about giving a homeless person money, but it's for their dog.
Oh yeah, as you know, like that joke is like just an honest, brutal like joke. But that was Patrice,
mean. Yes,
that was him. And like I've always been drawn to like the honesty of comedians, So it's been about honesty first, and then like the jokes. If you're clever, right? That's how I see comedy. I would watch him, Chappelle and the Chappelle Show, which showed me like what's possible with comedy. It's not just like this one medium. It's not just movies. It could also be like sketch comedy that like also feels like stand-up in a way. I was going to school and I just graduated, and I had a job like interning for my school's marketing company, and I also had a full-time job as like a cook at the school, and I would serve food in like the cafeteria. So I was a lunch lady, and a proud lunch lady.
That's what's up.
Yeah. And I had to make a decision in my life that like every comedian or any artist or anyone like trying to do anything comes to a crossroads where they have to choose between the thing that they think they want, which for me was comedy, and the thing that they're undeniably brilliant at, which is being a lunch lady. I was a fucking terrific lunch lady. But I just didn't see like a 20-year career, you know, coming from
in lunch ladydom. Yeah.
But I moved to New York like shortly after quitting that job. And I moved in with my sister to, you know, take care of her kids because she just had her third kid. And then at the time, Jordan, as we've already mentioned, my cousin, was dating a very famous celebrity.
We'll just skip his name.
Yeah, very famous stand-up comic.
He was a nice guy. I don't want to be mean. But I saw his stand-up way before he got the thing that he is now widely successful for.
Yeah, you're gonna have to cut that out. That's obviously it's gonna be like New York, widely successful for something that is kind of comedy, but kind of not.
Whatever. And obviously, in comparison to the guy that had the job before him, the guy that had the job before him, I think, is one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, but also like the time period that he had the job versus, I mean, debatable because like this person had, you know, Trump.
He got
America.
Trump, yeah.
Yeah. But
could you imagine the other dude with Trump?
Oh yeah.
Like, so the
this
other.
Is so obvious who we're talking about now.
I don't care.
As a result of her dating him and us being so close, like she's one of my best friends. You know, I became friends and close with this, you know, this guy who we'll call him Patrick. What do you want to call him?
Fuck you, Patrick.
It was a nice feeling making him laugh. I'll say that much, just from like an ego validation standpoint. There a couple times I'd run a joke, just drop a little one-liner, and I'd get a chuckle. Like, got him.
Yeah, well, that's kind of like what happened to me. Like, because I mean, over the course of hanging out with his friends who are also comedians and like getting exposed to this world, you know, that was one thing, and I really enjoyed it, but it still didn't like click into my mind that I could actually do comedy. He had like this great rooftop in overlooking like the city, and just like this beautiful view of the skyline, and we're just like talking, probably high. And
I was talking to a friend who just moved there. Apparently, there's just trucks on the streets that just sell it now, a la food trucks. There's just weed trucks. Yeah. That's wild. Also, I like that New York calls it Zaza. I'm a big fan of that.
Well, no, Zaza is like a very specific type of weed.
I've been today. I learned. Tell me more.
Yeah, so smoke it a Zaza. Get lit with the matas. But anyway, like that Zaza is it's like it's just like a type. It's just a brand.
As the Chronic would be here in Long Beach.
Precisely. We were talking on the roof, and he was like, "Oh, you talking bits?" Like he was like, "If you don't try it, you're a pussy." That's what he told me. So it's like a challenge a little bit, you know?
See, I think you are too. I'm a very competitive person.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Like, even if it's not something that I think that I can succeed at or best you at, if I'm challenged to a thing, there's a really substantial part of me that okay, wait a minute, I'm drunk and high enough to where I can reflect on this accurately. It's a part of me that wants to rise to the challenge. It's a part of me that does not want to appear weak by cowering away from a challenge, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not even that I want to beat him, it's that I can't stomach losing.
Right.
So thus I am competitive.
Yeah. Losing, it's like that regret, you know, like you don't want to have that regret for not doing something and live with that versus just doing the thing that you're scared of, you know. I wrote something down, and I talked about I talked about like being a nanny in New York, and I took it on stage and bombed horribly.
Oh man.
It was
talk to me about what it feels like to bomb on a comedy stage. Because I know what it's like to bomb like on a musical stage. I imagine that it's similar enough to where it's like it's equally as uncomfortable in your brain as it is to be in the room right there, because when you don't talk, there is silence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when there's no laughs, there's also silence. So it's like, first off, it's like if anyone is thinking about doing comedy, it's an inevitability. Like, it's not like in music where if you bomb one night, it's kind of like, oh, that was rare. If you're a good musician,
sure.
If you're a good comedian, which I am not, like I don't consider myself a comedian. If you're a good comedian, you're bombing, I would say 80% of the time.
Deesh.
I was bombing 90% of the time and still going, you know what I mean? But like that 10% teaches you, like, those are things that you can take on stage, and like for the paid shows and the bigger crowds and stuff like that, you could feel confident in those because they're proven through like these periods of bombing. And it took a lot of bombs to get those things from, you know, just general ideas, premises, into like foundational pieces to like a set.
The ego validation that I feel in the circle of homies when I say something that makes somebody laugh, like I can keep that warm fuzzy feeling inside of me for 2 weeks. I can't imagine what it's like to formulate an idea, a bit, a concept, a set, whatever it is, in your head, and then through the, you know, the forging, like through the refinement of the bit and the practice of it, and then like the medium equivalent of me like shredding a solo and then somebody like digging it, because it's like, yeah, no, I know what I'm doing here now. It took me a while to get to where I know what I'm doing here now. But it's a good feeling to know, like, when you exercise yourself, when you like say like, this is what I got for you, these are the jokes I got for you, whatever it is, this is my brain, this is my art, this is what I'm offering to you, and then receiving like not just the validation of laughter or like, oh yeah, you're shredding, but like feeling like the other person understands how you felt. Right? Like when somebody reacts to a shred or to a joke or whatever it is, what they are subconsciously communicating to me is, yes, me too. Yes, I also understand.
Yeah, we're on the same wave.
Same wavelength, yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck, what is that like, man?
So like that, those moments are what make all the bombing, all the hard work, the writing, like the shitty fucking A train breaking down, and you're just stuck in the middle of it writing shit because you're missing sets, you know? Like that, all of that becomes worth it when someone is able to like think like you for a second, or you're able to like make someone, you know, see the world in a way that you find really funny, and now they can find it really funny.
I've had this conversation with a couple of friends talking about comedy and I guess the role or the responsibility of comedy as an art form, comics as the delivery method of that art form, right? And I was talking with a friend about Chappelle, who is one of my favorites, if not like if gun to my head, if I had to pick a greatest of all time, surely recency bias and when I was born has an effect on this. If I was born maybe 10, 20 years earlier, I'd probably say Pryor. My favorite of all time is Carlin, but I think you can make an extremely strong case that the greatest of all time is Dave Chappelle. I have a fun Chappelle story to tell in a little bit after this setup, because I saw Chappelle in the Roots in Vegas as my first post-COVID concert, and
sick.
As a non-religious person, as close to feeling God as I have ever felt in my life, and I mean that sincerely. And I'm very excited to tell you about that experience. So I was talking to a friend about Chappelle right around when his first couple Netflix specials came out. And I know in that first special, there was a chunk of the special where he did a bunch of trans jokes, maybe like 15 minutes on trans jokes. I thought it was funny. And I didn't feel like it was particularly mean-spirited, but I also understand that I'm not part of the population that gets to decide whether or not they're affected by it. You know what I mean? Like, it's easy for me as a non-trans person to say like, yeah, that didn't offend me. Yeah, no shit, bro. You weren't the person that they were talking about. You know what I mean? But in general, I'd like to say that like, it didn't feel mean-spirited. It didn't feel like it was coming from a bad place. He was making jokes. His subsequent Netflix special, he talks about the backlash that he got from making those jokes, right? And then he, if anything, he kind of doubles down and explains himself a little bit. And at one point in the second special, he says something to the effect of like, I can't stop telling jokes about these motherfuckers.
Yeah.
And he leans into it even further, right? And so I was talking to a friend about this, about comedy, and again, to rewind and to eventually get this fucking thought out. The role of comedy, the role of stand-up comedians. And my general idea was, and kind of still is, it's not necessarily a free-for-all, like comedians have fair game, free license to say whatever they want to without fear or concern for other people's feelings or the consequences of the things that they say, if they incite hatred, if they incite violence towards a group of people or a person, whatever it is. Like, I'm not saying that, but I am generally of the opinion that like part of the art form is to push boundaries, to look at things with an absurdist perspective. The point that I was trying to make was that if the intention behind a joke is clearly not coming from a place of bigotry or hatred and is instead coming from that place of like, haha, isn't this silly? Isn't this absurd? Isn't this strange? While not belittling the group, while not like ridiculing the group for being a way that they can't change about themselves, whatever it is, I think that's fair game, right? Like there's a difference when a comedian does like a ching chong accent and it's being silly versus when it's being like, oh no, these people are a certain way. So I'm making this general point to my friend, and he says, cool, I hear that. We do have to weigh intention. Intention does count for part of the equation. But at the end of the day, regardless of the intention, if a person who belongs to the group of people that you're talking about says like, hey man, that's offensive. Hey man, that sets us back. Hey man, that perpetuates a conversation in which people think things about us that are untrue or are harmful towards our population. We would all be better off if that kind of a conversation wasn't continuing. And if knowing all of that and you persist onwards, you're kind of a jerk. And I didn't have a great response to that. So before I finish up with the Chappelle story where I got to see him recently and he explains that position even further, what do you think the role of a comedian or the role of comedy should be? Or like, is there such thing as a subject that shouldn't be fair game, or we should collectively agree like, hey, we're gonna not make fun of this thing for X amount of reasons? Or is it all fair game? Or is, in the name of comedy, it just it's a free-for-all?
The goal of comedy is to question everything. That's the simplest way I can put it.
Yeah.
Question everything and be honest. Tell the truth, or, the apparent truth, right? Because the truth evolves in a lot of cases. So, I mean, we all evolve, so why can't truth, Because really what Dave was doing, was he's questioning an idea or a concept. He didn't say, fuck trans people. He didn't say, I think all trans people should die.
Right.
He just joked about them.
Right.
Just to like go back to like what your friend said. If he thinks that that's offensive, then in reality, I think what he's doing is the most offensive, because he's saying that trans people can't handle this. They can't handle being made fun of. But they're just human beings like you and I, right? That's what they're saying. That's what I'm saying. Right.
So by not allowing them to be fair game the way the rest of us are all fair game, like, aren't we othering them? Are we putting them into their own box in an effort to protect?
Yeah. And it's not really protection. It's the same thing as we talked about like earlier in this conversation or later in this conversation, depending
Thank
on
you
how
for including
this goes.
that. I will leave that in there.
And I would say the proof is right here that actually doesn't progress us. It creates all these other problems down the road. You're just hiding the issue. And the issue is that we're all imperfect and we're all broken. And there's a lot of fucking funny shit about that.
Yeah.
Because we only got one life and we're all like just picking up the pieces the last generation left us. And we're going to break some shit and leave it for the next generation.
Yeah.
And that shit is funny, dude. Like, that's funny.
Right.
So you can't just exclude people from being a part of the joke that is life.
Post-COVID, my first concert event was the Roots and Dave Chappelle in Las Vegas. And I think it was a Saturday night a couple weeks ago, or probably as of the viewing of this a long time ago.
Yeah.
But it was like the Friday night I had seen a bunch of Instagram story shit about the Roots playing in Vegas, and I couldn't find out or see or figure out where because they didn't have it like posted, but they were just there doing Vegas stuff. Then I saw that Chappelle was there, and I was like, all right, I'll put two and two together. And then I will further assume if the Roots flew out on a Friday night to play with Chappelle, they ain't gonna fly out on the Saturday. They're gonna probably play the Saturday night too. So last minute, I bought some nosebleed seats for me and my buddy Young Christopher. That is my friend Charlie's nephew. Charlie, who was the first episode of Dum Dum Dojo, which we're gonna put here somewhere. Like that.
Click that shit, motherfucker.
Left LA at like 3, got there at like 7:30. The show's gonna start at 8. I was wearing a t-shirt. It says habitual line stepper, which is a reference from a Chappelle show bit where they talk about Rick James and how Charlie Murphy called Rick James a habitual line stepper.
Like, yo, Rick, man, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? You done took this shit too far. And his response is like this. There's no such place. Darkness. Let's go to the abyss, nigga! I'm not with it, man. I don't want to go to the abyss, man.
We're running late for the show. We're trying to get there. Chris has never even been to a concert before. This is his first like live event ever, and I'm like, you picked a good one to tag along to. It's the greatest comedian of all time and the greatest band of all time. There's a fuck ton of people there because it's a huge event, and there's clearly like a line, like people waiting in a line, and it's likely the line that we're supposed to be in. But I'm just like, we're just gonna keep moving, my technique for this is if you walk with purpose and a mild squint, like, which helps again when you're on shreddables, but if you look like there's somewhere where you're supposed to be and you just keep walking like you're looking for something, you can typically get where you need to go. So I'm wearing a shirt that says habitual line stepper while clearly cutting the line with my very tall, handsome black friend Chris. Also, I am philosophically very opposed to cutting the line in a concert. But I will acknowledge the fact that I was an asshole and say that I'm sorry. It was the first show post-COVID. It's my favorite band in the world. It's my favorite comic in the world. I had to get in the fucking building. And so we power walked our way as close to the front as we could get. Like, not to the front, but like certainly in front of these hundreds of people that were waiting patiently in this line. Had we waited patiently in said line, we would have missed the Roots entirely. The way the stage is set up, it's like a square stage, but it's in the round. It's like a 360 stage. So I've seen the Roots a gazillion times. This is the first time I'm getting to see the Roots from behind, and like, we got nosebleeds, so I'm looking down, watching Questlove's back as he drums. Like, and for the first time, I'm able to see like his kick drum foot, and like it was just an angle, just a perspective, seeing my favorite band that I will never probably get to experience again, which was insane.
That's sick.
And so they're doing their thing, they're playing their set, and then at a certain point, the crowd just starts making a bunch of noise. And then we see Chappelle just like slowly start to meander up. He's wearing a suit. He's got sunglasses on. Stops the Roots in the middle of their song, right? And he's like, I'm sorry. I had to come experience the energy. It was too good. And then he starts to deliver his sermon about how this is the first event in Las Vegas. Or the reopening of the city, right? This is the first full capacity event in Las Vegas. And then he counts off the band, and then the Roots start playing Creep by Radiohead. And like the first 30, 45 seconds of the experience, you're like, haha, isn't it funny? Like this is the novelty of Chappelle and the Roots singing Radiohead. And then by the time it gets to the chorus, should also mention, so it's me and Chris, right? And then to the left of us is a black dude and his girlfriend. In front of us is an Asian dude and his Asian girlfriend. And then to the right of us is a Mexican dude and his Mexican girlfriend. Racially diverse, right? Like just a bunch of young 20, 30 somethings just there to have a great time, there to experience this thing. Yeah. And I, as a rock musician, I don't know how the words to that song go. I can drunkenly hum along the melody, right? But I don't fuck with Radiohead. By the time the first chorus happens, man, I'm talking about like it's 18,000 people all singing the same thing, and this is an experience that I remember sitting in this fucking room, staring at this computer, editing this bullshit podcast, or playing along to YouTube videos, whatever it is, throughout the shithole that was 2020, thinking to myself, like, man, what an amazing experience it's going to be the next time I can be in a crowded arena with a gazillion other people all singing the same song. And then, boom, like I'm there, and I'm an hour and a half into some very potent shreddables, and sitting there watching Chappelle lead this arena in Radiohead, and it's a full-on happy cry. And I'm sure I weirded out the people around me because at one point, like, it's towards the end of the song, right? It's like last chorus, the energy's heavy. Questlove's he's riding the crash cymbal, right? Like it's the climactic part. Again, like I said it jokingly earlier, but like as close to a religious experience that I'll ever get, with the fucking lights, the music. My favorite band in the world is just blasting music at me, just feeling together with all those people, all these different people that look nothing like me, that we're all here to share in this experience together. And it was huge. And so they finished the Radiohead song, he gets off, the Roots end up finishing their set. And then shortly after, Chappelle comes up, does an amazing set for like an hour and a half. And about an hour and a half in, he starts to tell a story about his friend Daphne, right? Who was a stand-up comic from San Francisco, a trans stand-up comic from San Francisco. And I guess after his specials came out, she was like, oh, I don't find these offensive, da-da-da-da. Like they had some kind of a relationship, some kind of a friendship. And whenever he was in San Francisco, he says, like, I would bring her up. He's like, I watched this bitch bomb for 45 minutes, right? And she just stood up there and took it, right? And then he goes on to explain, like, I felt like she was part of my tribe, like my tribe of stand-up comedians. At some point during her set, some dude in the crowd heckles and makes some kind of transphobic joke, slur, or something like that, says something fucked up. And Chappelle says, like, even though she was bombing, even though nobody was really, her material wasn't landing, the energy in the room shifted drastically when that guy said what he said, because the energy changed from, hey, you're not doing great, but we're all here enjoying this together, to, nah, man, that's not why we're here. We're not here to make fun of this person. We're not here to belittle this person. We're not here to separate them or make them feel different or lesser than us. This dude just changed it all up. And then I don't remember how he delivered it, and I'm butchering even the retelling, the summarization of the story. But she hit him with a comeback. Crowd goes wild. This is one of the handful of the things from his set which I will probably remember for the rest of my life. Like I took that with me, filed it away on my hard drive. It's like, that's one to hang on to. Chappelle says, like, he's going back and forth. He's asking her all the questions that he's always wanted to ask a trans person, somebody he doesn't understand. And he says at some point on stage and to her in front of the crowd, I hear you, I just don't get it. Right? And then her response to him is, you don't have to get it. Just believe in my human experience. And I was just like, dude, that is wild to me, right? Like, and this concept of like, I couldn't purport to understand. There's many different people out there that live many different ways differently from me that I could never understand the kind of struggle it is to be this kind of person or that kind of person. I don't have to. It's not about whether or not I can relate to this or feel like I know where you're coming from. I can just believe that this is something that you are experiencing as a human, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you know, when we talk about like statistics and like stereotypes and all this kind of stuff, it's like, yeah, those are good for blanket storytelling and stuff. But at the end of the day, statistics are also real people with real struggles and real problems. What do you say to those real people, you know? And Chappelle, as he's telling the story, right, he's explaining all this, not necessarily as a rationalization of the criticisms that he's gotten from the trans stuff, but he's telling the story as part of his bit. And this is now, at this point, like 2.5 hours, 2 hours at least, into his set of like, it's an arena show. We've all paid to be here. We've all been here for a minute doing this thing. 2 hours in the set, some dude on the floor level stands up and says, "Fuck you, Dave Chappelle," in the middle of the story as he's telling this trans story. And crowd starts going wild and he's like, "Whoa, hold up. Let's hear what he's got to say." Inevitably, the crowd was making too much noise to, like, Dave was trying to let this dude say his piece, but like there was just too many people talking shit and booing him and stuff. Something to the effect of like, "I hope you wipe your ass with my money," or something like that. Like he was trying to talk shit. So Chappelle says, you said something about your money? Your money? Oh, is it this money? He reaches into his suit jacket and pulls out like a massive wad of $100 bills and starts fanning himself with it. And the crowd, the stadium erupts. And I'm sitting there, like I'm elbowing Chris, like, this is what we paid for. This is what it's like to watch somebody who is the greatest at the thing they do this is what it's like to watch Michael Jordan dunk from the fucking free throw line. This is what it's like to watch Steph Curry shoot threes. And so the heckler dude leaves. He gets kicked out. And the whole time he's just talking shit to him, right? Like Chappelle with command over a microphone and 18,000 people just screaming his name and booing this guy just mercilessly. Like, "You ain't never been famous a day in your life, motherfucker. You will never forget this shit." Just, it was in general, just to summarize, amazing to watch the greatest at what he does do his thing. As he's signing off, as he's closing off the show, he says, you know, let's dedicate this one to all the ones that we lost in COVID, all the people that didn't make it. Let's take care of each other. And he says, be kind to one another at all costs, right? And he says, if we just remember that, we treat each other with kindness, we'll be in for a better world. All right, so here's the thing about my balls. What a strange way to start a sentence, right? What a strange way to start any kind of an interaction. It's like, let me tell you a tale about my testicles. Let me tell you a tale about my testicles. A lot of T's, a lot of alliteration. Keep it moving. It is summertime in Southern California as of the recording of this advertisement. And goodness gracious, things are uncomfortable in the nether regions. We're talking about a lot of moisture, a lot of sweat. I just realized I don't have the product with me at the moment. It's in another room, so we're gonna keep it going and using the magic of video editing. The project. Ugh, I'm drunk. Sorry, guys at the company watching this. This is a good ad, right? Okay, here we go. Fromunda. Oh, there it is. I'm talking, of course, about my friends at Fromunda. This is an all-natural body powder made with no artificial ingredients, no parabens, no sulfates, no gross shit that you don't want to put on your nutsack. It's going to keep you feeling cool and fresh and smelling good all year round, and particularly in these summer months when things are damp and sweaty. I'm going to New York and Florida in like 3 or 4 days as of the recording of this advertisement, and I'm prepared. I'm bringing multiple packages of my Fromunda. And dampness will not keep my nutsack and I down. And of course, your boy Pal's got the hookup right now when you go to fromunda.com and use the promo code DOJO for 15% off of your entire purchase. One more time, that's fromunda.com, FROMONDA.com, and the promo code DOJO, DOJO, for 15% off of your purchase. You're supporting an American business, you're keeping your balls dry. The two most important things that we can do as American citizens on a day-to-day basis. Serve your fucking country. What would Steve Rogers do? Tell me about the Just agency. So what is that you're working on? Is that like, that's your main project now, right?
Yeah, that's the thing I'm working on right now.
Yeah.
Along with comedy, as I was like on stage and fell in love with it, I realized that all it really is just kind of like storytelling with some seasoning, you know?
Yeah.
And I realized that that's kind of why I went into business for. It's like I went in specifically for marketing because I was fascinated by like how a brand like Wheat Thins could have a story, you know,
right. Okay.
and can make you feel some type of way.
When I think of Wheat Thins, I think of classic. I think of nostalgia. I think of the year 1996. I think of the color yellow. Yeah. I think of a wholesome, safe, reliable snack. Damn, yeah. I want some fucking Wheat Thins right now. Oh my God, I just talked myself into wanting some Wheat Thins.
Yeah. We got you, motherfuckers. This is an ad break.
This episode is brought to you by Wheat Thins. Use the code DOJO for 20% off of your small wheat cracker purchases. Yeah.
Exactly that, dude. Like all of the things that you just mentioned
yeah.
about Wheat Thins have nothing to do with Wheat Thins.
Right. It's just like, the story that we've convinced the consumer is Wheat Thins.
Right. Oh. And like, so I like, as I started like getting into comedy more, I understood, okay, that's what that element is like yeah. that I'm after. Like I find that same element in comedy that I found in marketing and that I've found in writing. It's all just a way of telling stories. And there's a lot of like, if anyone's in like anyone listening knows about the social media space, there's a lot of like jobs created for helping these big companies tell these lies, essentially. They're not even like clever lies. Like you should not be buying, like if you're listening to this right now and you like bought a new car, like a new Mazda from an ad, you're dumbass. Because there's a better use of $30,000 than buying a fucking Mazda.
Right.
Like, but they make it seem like Mazda makes it seem like this amazing like experience that you could have. You know, they're drifting on the road, they're testing their shit on the track. Like when have you ever taken your car on a track? You're just stuck in traffic.
You're going to work. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So like find something that's like reliable, has some miles on it, and like doesn't break your bank account. How about that?
Dude, that shit is so fascinating to me, man. And I guess it's, you know, it's on some low-key dark side shit, but like making somebody feel the emotions that you tell them to feel, right? Mm-hmm. Like inflicting happiness on somebody, inflicting nostalgia on somebody, mm-hmm. using words, using fonts, using colors, all that kind of stuff. Like I'm not at all a visual person, but the more I learn about that kind of stuff and the more I learn about like you're saying, like how we use words and how we describe things, how we frame stuff to make people feel a certain way, depending on the industry, right? Like they'll frame it as something you can gain as opposed to don't miss out on these savings, right? Like don't miss out on these savings versus take advantage of this discount. It's the same message, but framed two different ways. In one situation, you're losing something. In one situation, you're gaining something. These mm-hmm. small, subtle, like elbow in versus elbow out shooting motion differences that make somebody feel entirely different about a product or a person or a brand or whatever it is. That shit is so fucking cool to me.
Yeah.
Didn't you do like a Mattel or like a Barbie campaign or something like that? Yeah,
Barbie. So like that was actually the reason that I quit, like, and I started Just. That was like, so it's kind of perfect that you're bringing that up, because I worked for Mattel and I was managing Barbie and Hot Wheels, like international YouTube presence.
Holy shit.
Which, you know, it wasn't just me. There's like a ton of people that were on the account. You know, a lot of like creative directors, analysts like myself, and the team that I had there. Tons of people rely on you know, Barbie for a job.
Right. Yeah.
Like that's where I was at. Like I was employed by Barbie.
Right.
the company that I worked for is basically the marketing arm for Warner Media and AT&T, which owns all of us, right? I was in the enemy's lair, you know, and
hang on. When you say in the enemy's lair, is it because you're not being honest, or as in like because it's this like really structured, I don't want to say artificial, but very deliberate way of like, cool, how do we spin this thus that we get the message across the way we want it to? I mean, that is kind of the goal too, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean the enemy's lair in the sense that like AT&T is the shittiest piece of shit company on the planet.
As in they're the corporation. They're the man.
They are the
gotcha.
guys that are like,
Right.
you know, and they're the best liars too. Like they say they have the best network, they don't have close to the best network. They say they have great customer service, they have fucking terrible customer service.
Should I not be on AT&T right now?
Oh, dude, you should absolutely not be on AT&T.
What are you on, bro?
Go to. I'm on AT&T, unfortunately, because I haven't changed my fucking phone bill.
Listen, AT&T gives me free HBO Max. I'm gonna keep that shit riding.
Yeah, that's how they get you. Like all of those things. That was sort of my perks of the job. Like I got to see movies before they were out in theaters. Like I got HBO Max. My phone bill was like $10. You know, now it's like $110. You know.
Yeah.
But like so I was like, my main client was Barbie. I was doing it during COVID. So, and also like George Floyd, the Black Lives Matter protests, and it was like a really heightened time for marketing. So many companies choose to portray themselves or put themselves in whatever light is popular, wherever that spotlight is.
I mean, we're recording this at the beginning of August, but like Pride Month, every fucking company had a rainbow, and then like now, no more gay stuff.
Nope.
Yeah.
I mean, except for like maybe a couple people left it as forgot about it and left it as.
What I wonder is like in those pitch meetings, like, is it not like, does the company not think that the consumer knows that it's surface level? Because you and I, as people with functioning brains, right, and anybody else who goes on their Instagram and sees that Mazda or Toyota or fucking Hasbro or whoever it is has a rainbow for their icon, like, we all know that this is just some pandering flavor of the month bullshit. Is there any level of analytics that says like, oh yeah, that's actually counterproductive, that actually hurts us? Or is it, even though it's surface level, even though we know that it's silly or whatever it is, it's still helpful, still profitable?
Yeah. So I work for a company now called VidMob. We refrain from using like the data that we would get from the social apps that they collect from you and like give to advertisers. We don't use that. We use like our AI, like computer vision, to identify creative elements within a video. So as you said, like the Pride logo, or like remixing your logo to exhibit Pride. So just putting a rainbow on it. And we're able to tell you like if that works or not, you know, if that like answer that very question. So I can tell you with resounding confidence that it does actually boost performance, and that's why they do it. So I started Just, and Just is plain and simple a storytelling agency, where if you need like production work, guy with a camera, or a creative director to help you ideate, or if you need post-production work, you need editors, you need copywriters, we can help you with that. And the key about it that's different from other agencies is we're just listening to your stories and telling you how to best present yourself. We're just showing you this is the lane you should go through.
Yeah. And
we can help you do it based on what we know works online, and based on, above all, your story. This would make a lot of sense.
Well, I mean, I think about brand loyalty, right? Like as I glance over at the other screen that has my camera on it over here, this hat, right? This is a band, an Australian band called Dead Letter Circus, based on their music, which I already love. And here's a burp.
Oh, that was nice.
Based on their music and based on the handful of interactions that I've had with the band members, I'm like, oh yeah, man, I'm a fan for life. Anything that you guys put out, I will support wholeheartedly and gratefully, because I relate to you on that level of not just do you make art that is special to me and I enjoy listening to and means a lot to me, but like on a human to human, person to person level, it feels like, oh, we would laugh at the same kind of movies. We would enjoy the same kinds of things. I feel like part of your tribe. And like from a brand perspective, a loyalty perspective, any record they put out, I've paid for. Any time I can buy a t-shirt or buy a hat and pay. I'm pretty sure the shipping for this hat costs more than the hat itself to get it from Australia, but I'm down because those are my guys.
Yeah. There's this, this just reminds me of it. Like your like loyalty to these guys and their brand, this idea that they have kind of like put out into the world. It reminds me of this, it's not even a theory at this point. It's more like a certifiable fact. But it's this article written, I don't remember who the author is, but it's called 1,000 True Fans. And he goes in depth and defines like what
numbers and what that means.
Yeah. And what a fan is, you know, like what's the difference between like someone who's a consumer, someone who is a fan, and then someone who is a super fan of your business.
Okay.
You're a super fan.
Yeah, I'm very much a super fan.
You've told someone else who is going to go listen to their music now, right? Like they didn't even have to put any marketing into the world. You are
that cost
marketing.
them $0 exactly.
And that's genuine human connection, and that's what it's really about. What you want is to be honest to yourself and do the thing that you do best at the scale that makes the most sense for it. So that's the first thing I tell a lot of my clients at Just is like, we're not playing like the followers game. We're making things.
I'm not competing with Joe Rogan, dude.
Exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? I'm competing with every other fledgling musician that's beginning a podcast right now.
Right.
Like, that's my competition.
It's time for another subject change.
Segment I do every episode. It's called Rookie Shit, and the theme song goes here. If you can think of any embarrassing, just starting out stories of throw me some embarrassing stuff. Throw me some rookie shit.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw you some stand-up rookie shit. I wouldn't consider myself like a good comic, but I can go on stage and I can.
If somebody says, "Hey, we need you to kill 20 minutes," you can kill 20 minutes comfortably.
Precisely. Like my friend, like to give you an example of that, my friends got married, and when I got to the wedding, they were like, "Hey, would you mind emceeing today?"
Tight.
And I said, okay, because you never say no to the bride, you know, like that was like the rule that was kind of like drilled into me. And I fucking crushed it. You know, I got good over like the first 2 years that I was doing it by, you know, being consistent about it and putting in a lot of effort and stuff like that. And I started like, I got like a show that I hosted out in Rockaway Beach. I was like in talks to get a residency at Stand Up New York. So like things were moving and like pretty fast compared to like some of my peers. I remember after my Rockaway show going on stage to some mics, and like I was performing, and it was like it's this place in the Lower East Side. It's this very narrow room attached to a gay bar. So it is a gay bar, but they've given this pointless hallway to comedians.
The narrow shaft.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it like, I'm telling you, it couldn't be more narrow. Like you're probably. So
you're talking about like urethra level.
Yes.
Narrow.
Yeah.
Not even just shaft.
No.
Like...
I'm talking about it's a little uncomfortable. It's tight in here. It's a tight squeeze. Like there's a reason why sperm don't have arms, because like they have nowhere to put it in the urethra. They got to be fast. They got to shoot out that bitch. But I went on stage, and I had this bit about, on that day in particular, like Africa shut down its borders from all travel from Asian countries, right?
Okay.
And I went up there, my ignorant ass went up there and said, "You really think that these motherfuckers are going to like Africa? Like what business?" You know, and I said that. And then one of my like friends within the comedy space called me out on my bullshit. He was like, "A lot." He's like, "Actually, like there's a big industry, like a big Chinese industry in like parts of Nigeria, Egypt. Like the Chinese are very like influenced within that culture, like heavily influenced."
China.
And I like went back and like researched, like first off, it like dropped my bit cold. And everything I said after that was like, I was like literally reading from like a law book. Like it's just terrible.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling shitty about myself, which is
you're already pot committed at this point.
Yeah.
Like you've begun the bit. You have to finish the premise.
Yeah. So I finish it, whatever. And then as I'm like, I leave the place because I left early because I was fucking embarrassed. And I'm walking and like thinking about things, and I record my bits. So I'm like listening to it. I'm like, I have to listen to my jokes back to like notice how I'm saying things and like adjusting that accordingly. And that's the last time I said, oh, I'm a good comic. You notice like every single time I said I'm pretty good, but that was just me like having to say that, right? I do not think
you got to talk yourself into it before you can talk anybody else into it.
Exactly, but I don't even think I am anymore because of this moment. Because now I've developed this beginner's complex that I think is very helpful for me in comedy. Because I'll approach.
That's definitely some art of Zen shit for sure.
Yeah, you gotta like, if you don't have that like a beginner is always ready to learn something. And if you were in the position that I was in, where I was like doing well within my field, getting a big head, the ego exploding a little bit, I stopped putting effort to like researching that bit and like understanding it fully before I just like threw it out there. Like I just saw some shit on Twitter and I was like, you know what? I feel this confident in my shit that I could just go up stage and just throw up there. Like I didn't have anything really crafted. I didn't spend a lot of time. It just happened that day, you know? But that was, and not that I can't tell those jokes, you know, in the future, like so long as I'm informed, you know? And I felt really bad about that joke. And I felt like I was very happy that like my peers were able to hold me accountable by like not laughing, by actually like interrupting my set and be like, you ignorant motherfucker.
Yo, FYI. Yeah. This is why that doesn't work. Yeah.
So that's my rookie mistake.
So very last segment, and then we'll wrap it up, is a segment I call Put It on Wax. So let's talk about things that you're working on right now, aspirations, goals, stuff that by saying outwardly and putting on the record, you know, you're on the hook for making them happen.
Yeah, I love that. I have aspirations to start 2 major things in like the next 6 months to a year.
Nice.
The first is something that I've been working on for over 2 years now. I want to develop my own game.
Okay.
It's called Dare City. It's actually in honor of Riverside Dare Night, if you can believe it.
I'm entirely unfamiliar.
Well, so basically, like Jordan and her friends, and like whenever I was around, I got to be invited to like these things. Would put on like these. They would call it Dare Night, and it would just be 2 teams, and they would just like challenge each other back and forth to like do dumb kid shit, like, oh, go run through the mall naked, or you know, go jump in that fountain over there, or order something like order a piece of pizza and then just like fucking smash it in your face or something stupid like that.
Sure.
So I was like reminded of this when it was Carissa, my girlfriend's birthday, and I'm fucking great with gifts. Like I really, because I go for like the heart, you know, more so than like the actual thing, you know, because anyone can get you something, but only I can give you something unique to our relationship. You know, that Dare Night spark like just came into my head, and I kept thinking about it, and then I was like, all right, well, let me just like I tell jokes all the time, let me just like take like that joke writing and just apply it to like coming up with like unique dares. And I started populating a spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet turned into like 50 dares. And I was like, okay, this is real. Like that was easy.
Okay.
Basically did like the best design work I could. And I made like this list of dares that could go on your phone, and people would like check it off, and like also film these dares and go around New York City and, you know, do something like do all these crazy things. Like one of the things was get arrested, right? Which sounds like a far, like no one's going to be able to do that. But, you know, they ended up finding like a cardboard cutout of a cop, and then they just put their hands and then took a picture, and it counts, you know? So cleverness is also included in the game.
Yeah.
And the night was like went really well. Like everyone posted on their social medias, which is free marketing, genuine marketing, like the purest form. And like the effort that I put into it was just me being creative and comedy. And I literally only had that one PDF, and it turned into like a night for a lot of people, a night that they like really remembered. And I was like, okay, well, that's my friends. You know, it could have been bullshit because that's just me. Like I'm super
killing in front of your friends is not nearly as cool as killing in front of a room of strangers.
Totally. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna test this out a little bit more. So then I did it for my company and fucking smashed it. Like literally, they loved it. Yeah. And again, same reaction from them. So I was like, like this feels good to me, and like. And no one's and then so I started like developing it. I started like developing like what the UI might look like.
So hang on, when you say game, you talking about it's gonna be like a mobile digital thing, or like a tabletop Cards Against Humanity kind of joint?
No, like a mobile app. Okay. So my goal is to make it as big as Pokemon Go. That's my pie in the sky dream.
Okay, and then is there like an AR location services element to it?
Yeah, so I would be like I would like include Google Maps as like a partner to like run that piece of it. Initial premise is that the game can be tailored to your specific needs. So like you could submit dares, or you could pull from a list of dares and like populate your own night essentially. Yeah.
Dude, you could have like a food challenge specific thing of like, all right, cool, here's 7 sushi restaurants in the greater Long Beach area, and you have to get the spiciest piece of sushi at each place in under 30 minutes, and that includes driving and this and that, or
and like, all of those sushi restaurants are in on it, and they're partners of ours, and they're getting free advertising.
Yo, dude, that's dope as fuck.
My goal is to make all these specific challenges unique for all of these restaurants or bars. Think about something that's unique to you. Tell your story through this. Like this is a new app. Essentially, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the business side of it. And then also like the wider experience side of it. But the goal of it is to just get people like use this, which is like has caused so much negativity in my life.
Sure.
And like make a game that like forces you to just look up rather than at the screen. You know what I mean? And experience life. So that's the first thing.
Dude, that's so fucking cool.
Dare City. Yeah.
That's a cool idea, yeah.
And then the second goal of mine is to start like touring the country doing comedy. I've done shows. I've done countless mics, but I haven't been on like the road and like taking my shit. I mean, I've performed in New Mexico. I've performed in California. I've performed in New York, New Jersey. But I have yet to like tour the middle of the country. And it's just like experience a different like the grind of comedy, the grind of travel and things like that. I've thought of some fun ideas in order to do that. What do you know about like the private jet market?
Only what Jordan's told me, which was she was part of some kind of app or like some kind of subscription service, right? Where it was like you pay whatever, like a yearly fee or a monthly fee, and then you can use private jets in limited situations, right? Like certain days, certain times, certain kinds of flights and stuff. Yeah. But it's still a PJ from one place to another, right?
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. I had this like pretty good idea into like how a fun way I can do it and make content from it. Mm-hmm. So the app is called Wheels Up. It's like you pay this yearly membership fee, but then each PJ flight, and it's your own PJ, is $250. Like $250. Yeah. So you get a group of friends and you split the membership, so that way you have these $250 flights, and then you just ride that wave until it fucking breaks, and then they do it another way eventually. I thought about like, well, what if I like did my tour through like on a PJ? Like I just went to any random city that it went to. Yeah. And
then set up a show that day, that night.
Yeah, and the best part about it is I have no fucking business on a PJ. Like, why on earth would some awesome low-level shitty comedian be on a PJ, like going on tour? But I think that's the fun about it, and that's my second goal, is to like get that started. And even if it's not that, if circumstances don't work out for that, touring in general
finding
is
somebody
something I'm
across
interested
the country.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Fuck, these are both such cool ideas. You've always been, when you had your 30-minute break in the middle there, I did a little advertisement, and then I was like recording the introduction of like, hello, this episode's da 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 da, and just thinking about like how to describe this, right? And one of the things that I mentioned, you've always been such like an animated storyteller and like idea guy, right? Like the dreamer mindset, the architect of imagination is definitely something that I associate with you, dude. So fuck, man.
I appreciate that. I mean, I just do my best to like, I do try to take the world for how it is, and like, you know, I'm careful to not, you know, to keep that in my like 9 to 5, so to speak. Like that's my 9 to 5 perspective. But I also think it's very important to like dream big. So like to hear you say that about me makes me feel really good, because like, I that's something I actively try to do, is like keep dreaming. And I think, you know, like that's my contribution to every single one of my friends, is like, I want this to rub off on you, because like this is something that I learned about the world very early on, fortunately, you know, thanks to my amazing parents, and especially for my amazing grandparents who like raised me. And like learning lessons and being friends with like people who are in their 70s, 80s, 90s, like now, you know, and the wisdom that like once they teach you a lesson, like listen to that shit, because they've been
through it a lot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they've seen like the cycle kind of like, as you were saying at the beginning, or end wherever it falls in. As you were saying then though, like, you know, everything is kind of like cyclical, and it follows like these, you know, 80 to 100, 120 year cycles or whatever it is, lifetimes, essentially. You know, I was fortunate enough to like learn that dreamer mentality from them. And like, I just try to, you know, do my best to like live that mentality that I learned in homage to them. And, you know, I'm glad that to hear that like you see me that way, and it's rubbed off on you. And like, I feel I would say the same thing about you. Like the things, the conversations we always talk about are so like, a lot of them, you know, although very real, and we can get pretty real, but like we love talking about like these ethereal,
abstract, entirely hypothetical, extremely unlikely,
like potential. We love talking about potential. And I think,
I think about like the common standard of like, oh, would you suck a dude's dick for $1 million? Right?
Yes,
like,
is the answer to that question $1 million? That's awesome.
Well, yeah, it's the short answer is an absolute yes. $1 million is a lot of money. But then I think about like, all right, on a concrete logistical level, if you didn't hang out with me for a little while, and then the next time you hung out with me, I had $1 million, you'd be like, hey man, where'd you get that money? How'd you get that Tesla?
Yeah.
And then I'd have to be like, have you heard of Bitcoin? Yes. Sorry, I totally stepped. You were being heartfelt and sincere, and then I jerked off all over that. I ejaculated all over that. I'm sorry.
It's all good. I'd say that's how I prefer. That's like I'm actually erect right now, because that's how I like to be treated. You know.
Yes.
I like to deliver the heartfelt, and then be like, "Bitch, shut up."
Dude, this was a good hang. I have so much to chop through. Thank you once more for setting aside the time and joining me. The catchphrase that I ask each guest to leave us with is "Don't be a dum dum." So if you wouldn't mind signing us off.
Hey you. Don't be a dum dum.